Hello, I'm Patrick Wanis, human behavior expert, PhD. What is narcissism? How can we deal with narcissistic people? Before I answer those two questions, let's look at the origins of the word narcissist. In Greek mythology, Narcissus was the most beautiful man ever to exist. However, there was a problem. He rebuffed love. He hurt so many women. He was so caught up in his own vanity. So a goddess decided to curse him, to punish him, because he also too rebuffed her love. So what did she do? She made him fall in love with his own reflection, with his own image. Now, what's wrong with that? Well, one day Narcissus is standing in front of a pool, a lake, and he looks at his image and he notices how madly in love he is with himself. And one version of the story continues that he's so in love with that image of himself, he dives into the water and he drowns. Now, another way to interpret this story is that ultimately narcissism is not only about being in love with yourself or being obsessed with yourself, it's about being in love with a one or two-dimensional aspect of yourself, and that love for yourself is never satisfying. Now let's distinguish between narcissism, which I'll define in a moment, extreme self-love, and a healthy self-love. When you like, love, and respect yourself, then you learn to like, love, and respect other people. That's not the case with narcissism. Now, there are actually three kinds of narcissism. The first is the clinical definition of narcissistic personality disorder. The second is acquired situational narcissism, and the third is what I call rampant societal narcissism. Let's look at those. Generally, narcissism refers to not just an extreme self-love, but an extreme obsession with oneself. It means an inability to form meaningful relationships. It's an extreme reaction to criticism, promiscuity, an extreme obsession and self-absorption, an extreme obsession with yourself, an inability to empathize with other people, ultimately isolation and depression. Now this, of course, can be applied to many different kinds of people. However, when we're talking about narcissistic personality disorder, we're talking about something very extreme. The second form is acquired situational narcissism. That refers to celebrities. People who become famous can easily become narcissistic because they're so accustomed to people looking at them all the time and giving them so much attention that they stop looking back. In other words, the celebrity stops looking back at you, and all the celebrity ever sees is him or herself. Kanye West would be a classic example of that. The third kind of narcissism, what I refer to as societal narcissism, isn't about the person that takes the selfie or the person that continues to post moment after moment on Facebook. No, it's the person that was raised as a child to think that they're inherently entitled, inherently special, and therefore they don't care about anyone else. Therefore they're only self-absorbed. And again, that's created quite simply by the parent who raises the child saying, "You're beautiful just for being here." And that's true, you are beautiful just for being here. However, when you say that to a child and you don't balance it with consequences, discipline, teachings, boundaries, guidelines, limits, and perimeters, then the child grows up thinking, "I'm entitled, the world owes me a living, and I'm fantastic, and I don't need to do anything." In other words, narcissism is created in childhood because it's dealing with a child's brain and a child's mind. The parent doesn't take that into consideration and doesn't teach the child that life isn't only about taking, it's also about giving. It isn't just about receiving, it's about contributing. So hopefully that's a clear understanding of narcissism. And you might notice that with a person who really shows no interest in you. They're only ever talking about themselves. We'll also refer to that as an emotional vampire. And narcissism is definitely a form of emotional vampirism. Now the question is, well, how do you deal with a narcissist? By understanding, number one, that there's only really one antidote to narcissism. And it's not the person's life falling apart. It's learning compassion, empathy, and sympathy. You see, the complete opposite to narcissism, a healthy opposite or contrast to narcissism, is caring about other people. Compassion is defined quite simply by I sense your pain, I feel your pain, and I want to relieve it. Narcissism is, I don't recognize your pain, I don't care about your pain, I'm not interested in you, all I care about is myself. So you only have a couple of options with narcissists. Number one is to understand that you can't change them. You can help them, guide them, influence them, but you can't change them. That applies to all human behavior in general. You can't change someone else. You can only change yourself. Number two is, can you actually cut yourself off from this person? Maybe you can. What about if you're working with a narcissist? Well, then you want to limit your interactions. You don't want to socialize with them. What about if he or she is a family member or a friend? Again, can you limit your interactions with them? Finally, what can you do to help this person to look in a different kind of mirror? Not the mirror that says, wow, I'm fantastic, but the mirror that says, you're hurting people around you. Again, if the person has something such as narcissistic personality disorder, that means they have deep deficits in self-esteem. Ultimately, they keep saying how great they are because underneath they don't believe they're good. That means they're overcompensating for the belief that they're not good enough, not worthy, not lovable, not special. Hopefully, you can encourage someone to go and seek out professional help such as therapy. If you're in a relationship with someone, depending on whether you're the adult, the child, or your partners, and therefore you're on an equal footing, what can you do to show this person or help this person to be more compassionate? And sometimes it can be about sitting down at the right moment and saying, I'm really hurt, I'm suffering, our relationship is being hurt because I want this from you and this is what you're doing. So again, there's no black and white answer other than think about what can you do to help this person to become more compassionate or empathetic. Now, we're not talking about a sociopath or a psychopath. We're talking about someone who most likely has been programmed this way to not care about other people. So the best thing you can do is to sit down and try to point out how they're affecting you. And of course, try to limit your interaction or let them know that you're going to respond differently if they continue to behave that way. For more information on narcissism, narcissistic personality disorder, look at patrickwanis.com and go to my blog, www.patrickwanis.com. I'm Patrick Wanis. Thank you.